r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. People who have had a stalker. How did you realize you were being stalked, and what ended up happening? It was my ex. When we broke up it was all very dramatic and he got on a bus across the country the same day for whatever reason and sent a long message from the bus ending with, "This is not goodbye." I said yes it is, good luck. 2 years later I met my now husband and I suppose he moved back after 3 years. I started seeing him everywhere. He followed the two of us around Walmart for 45 minutes until I just posted up near a security guard and slipped out as he tried to wait for me to get away from the security guard. Then I saw him wandering around near my mother's house, but I had at that point moved in with my husband. Then I saw him outside of my work. He was clearly trying to get the courage to come in and he was also very clearly high. Some of the regular police officers came in by chance for their coffee and he left when they arrived. Then he figured out the general location where I was living and I saw him sort of wandering around a few times. I didn't go home when I saw him. I went and sat in a public place for a few hours. Then I changed places of work and I saw him outside about 3 times. I was near a major transportation hub so I tried to ignore it. But when he started doing the pacing, tweaking, chain smoking thing again I figured I ought to do something so I waited for a family friend I knew would be in who was pretty domineering and I knew would go to bat for me and let him know who it was and what he was doing. He went outside and told my ex off I suppose. And scared him I guess cause he left quite quickly. My family friend was a bus driver so I gave him a picture and he shared it with some drivers along my regular route and as long as I stuck to that route the few more times I saw him trying to get on my bus we drove right past him or the wrong door open to let people off and not let him on. We finally moved again and I quit my job because I had been bouncing around the same chain and was easy to find. Since then I have seen him once but he didn't see me and I think it was unrelated because he actually bought something. I just sat in the camera room and watched till he left. It's been an additional 5 years now so I assume he has figured himself out. I got an air of doom every time I saw him. He was kind when we dated, never abusive. But he was anti-drugs and anti-smoking and so seeing him high and things like that set off alarm bells. I know he was not well when he returned. I don't know what would have happened had he gotten close to me. Maybe nothing. But every bone in my body was screaming danger. So I trusted my gut and took steps to maintain distance and I was okay the police wouldn't have done anything. No threats were uttered and we were always in public. But all in all it turned out okay. I had a stalker in high school, and he didn't make it a secret. We were friends at first, kind of talking romantically, but I was very shy when it came to relationships or being physical. We had never even kissed before when he asked if he could send a song he wrote about me. It made me very uncomfortable and I asked him not to send it, but he did anyway. I expressed my discomfort and tried to continue the friendship, but it was just not working because he would still write me poems and send me weird songs. He started following me to my classes even though his were on the other side of school, but he wouldn't speak to me at all. It was insanely uncomfortable. This continued for weeks. He started sending me mean messages anonymously online and sending me songs with scary titles. He sent me that Smith song "The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get" every single day, sometimes multiple times. Then one day at lunch he gave me a handwritten poem and I can't remember what all it said but the end was something about how he wanted to watch me get eaten alive by sharks. While friends, I had told him sharks were my biggest fear. I showed my teacher the poem and she freaked out and took it to the guidance counselor. She knew all the previous incidents so the letter made her worried. Especially how his handwriting changed when he was writing about me dying. I ended up getting called into a meeting with the principal, a guidance counselor, and the teacher I told. They even called my mom and we all sat down and talked about what would be the best thing to do. The principal was really nervous he would do something crazy, so he said I should just avoid him as much as possible and be polite anytime we may interact. Basically how I was already handling it. I'm not sure if they ever spoke to him about it, but the last interaction I had with him still creeps me out to think about. I was up very late, and received a text from him. "Why are you up so late? You should get ready for bed." He had been to my place once before and I lived very close to the school. I'll always wonder if he was outside my house that night. It started while I was still in high school. He would be in a few of my classes and we would occasionally see each other around town, a very small, rural town. It slowly turned into him showing up at some of my friend group's hangout spots and saying that I had inspired him to start looking into similar hobbies. We thought it was kinda weird but just brushed it off and avoided him. Flash forward a couple weeks into the start of summer vacation. He had found or followed me to all of my favorite places and my work, even though both were sometimes towns over from our own. I would see his car at parks where I did outdoor painting, at my place of work as well as at friends' houses, and he would drive past the house of the family I known for during my days on. I thought it was creepy and told local authorities, but they told me not to worry. This went on for the rest of high school and up until graduation. I didn't tell anyone what university I was going to and lied claiming it was 1 hour away from mine. He was accepted and attended there while I left for another. He found out after a semester that I wasn't there and showed up at my dorm hall. He tried to break in and convince me and other people in the building to just let him in. I hid out in another girl's room until my friend was able to pick me up and take me to her boyfriend's off-campus apartment. I found out he was arrested the next morning for assaulting an RA. I called and showed them the evidence I had for his persistent stalking and finally filed a restraining order. He just got released a few months ago and I have never been more nervous. I'm just happy my current job and living area has amazing security and they all have pictures and his information to be safe. I may be paranoid, but better safe than end up on a true crime podcast. He followed me home from church. He left long letters on my car every night for about a week. He was a lot older than me. The police spoke with him and he left town. I know how lucky I am that it was so simple. He left town? Cops must have had a hell of a talk with him. My wife did. It became a real problem. He was a maintenance man at the school where she taught. She was throwing out a lot of old, damaged books. He asked if could have them for his kids. Of course. After that he wanted to always be there, wherever my wife was. He was always sweeping or cleaning near her room. Then one day in the winter, my wife got a flat right after leaving school. It was getting dark and her new best friend is there to fix it. While changing the tire, he started asking sexual questions. He wanted to know if she ever had a black man. Of course she said nothing. It got worse and the school administration was ignoring it. I was now going way out of my way to take her and to pick her up from school. She was scared. Then he said something to her while she was eating in the cafeteria. She lost it. She just started screaming and crying for him to leave her alone. They sent her home for a few days paid leave. Since the school was no help, I went to see 2 school board members I knew, but not well. I told them that I had hired an attorney and would be suing the school district unless my wife felt safe. They moved the custodian to another school, but it took months before my wife felt safe. The custodian got in trouble at the next school and was arrested. We never heard from him again. Last year my girlfriend was getting emails, texts and DMs from a no-name account asking intrusive and weird questions. Are you in an open relationship? Random sexually explicit stuff. She just blocked and moved on. Shocker to me, this is apparently very normal for women and it freaking sucks. Anyway, one time we were in a mall and she noticed this lanky guy was following us. Again, I'm oblivious. She mentions to me that she thinks it's the guy who has been harassing her for weeks. We leave. She gets an email to her business email that night telling her that her boyfriend is cheating on her and flirting with other girls on Goodreads, and how does that make her feel? If she wants to know more, she can meet him at a park that we spend a lot of our time together at. She now knows that he lives in our area and has all the information about her. She stops going for runs at night, she stops shopping by herself, etc. Locks down every account, doesn't leave the house alone. She's just angry. I'm angry too. I ended up looking this guy up and realized that we had a mutual friend. Just an actor that I had filmed a commercial with. I sent her a message asking if she knows this guy and explained the situation. I see that she's read it but doesn't respond. So for a few months my girlfriend doesn't hear anything from him and we just decide that it's over with. Then I get a message from the actor. Apparently she did know the stalker. It was her ex-boyfriend. They had an abusive relationship and he was really jealous. I guess he focused in on me because we would recommend each other books on Goodreads. He then decided that he was going to get even with me by stalking my girlfriend. The actor is embarrassed and is saying shit like, "I understand if you never want to talk to me again," which just breaks my heart. We offered to help her out, but she said that she has a restraining order and that it's fine. She did contact him and he said he'll stop and never contact us again. We thought we were fine, that it was over with. Then, one day he sends me a long Instagram DM trying to explain his behavior and saying that he wants to talk. I ignore it. He keeps sending messages. I keep ignoring it. I think he's done now. But I'll never forgive this guy for making my partner feel incredibly unsafe for a year. TLDR, some guy stalked and harassed my girlfriend because I liked his ex's Goodreads challenge. I went on 3 dates with a guy but didn't quite feel like there was a connection. Tried to let him down gently, as he hadn't had a girlfriend before. I was happy to remain friends as he was a friendly guy, I just wasn't attracted to him. This was about May. I've learned a few lessons from this one. He added me on Facebook, which was okay as we'd communicate through there sometimes. A month or so goes by, and he turns up at my house unannounced, saying he was in the area. He actually lived 45 minutes away and decided to go shopping in my town. I wasn't home at the time. My brother messaged me to let me know, and then the guy messaged me too. I apologized and said I was out, won't be home for several hours. That's fine. He went home. He'd picked me up from my house for the 3rd date. A few weeks later, I had accepted an event invitation on Facebook to a car show my mechanic was hosting. The guy turned up at this car event whilst I was there with my brother and some friends, and I didn't really know what to do about it. My brother kept him entertained and I managed to exchange pleasantries but stayed with my friends. I went for lunch with my friends, and when I got home I found out that the guy had gone to my house again. This time he had left some chocolates, a towel with my name embroidered on it and a letter. In the letter he explained how he was in love with me, wanted to have children with me, get married and get a house together. Oh, and the towel was so I could think about him when I dry myself with it. Again, I turned him down, because I wasn't into him. A few months later, I'm seeing someone else and he's over at my house. This guy turns up again, unannounced, trying to get hold of me. Why didn't he just message or call me? But luckily my brother is aware I've got the new guy with me, so tells the guy I'm not home. I had to explain to him in a message that if he wants to see me he actually needs to contact me first, not just turn up unannounced and expect me to be available. It made it much more difficult to want to be friends with him as it was becoming a bit overbearing and I didn't know what he'd try next. So, I had to cut him off. He tried contacting me through several methods. He even changed his number pretending to be someone else. He finally stopped after a year and a half. I caught him jerking off in the window. Long story short, my husband and I moved into our new home. Weird guy directly behind us was weird in the window. Turns out he was jerking off. Stalked online, got my number. Told me this was basically God's plan. He prayed for a beautiful woman and here I was. How my kids were gonna be his. Wild stuff. I have a weird kind of related story. There is a man in my town that for the last 15 years I see him constantly. Almost everywhere I go he's there, at least 3 times a month. The grocery store, the corner store, the gas station, Walmart, the liquor store. Occasionally we catch each other's eye and look at each other like you again and kinda laugh it off. It has come to be a little bit of a joke where I will come home and tell my husband, guess who I saw at the store today? The only catch, he's always at these places first. So it's me who looks like the stalker. Edit. Lots of bad grammar and words. He offered to bring me home after the club. I thought it was nice. But then he knew where I lived. For the next 3 months he was always there when I left my house. He was suddenly on the campus when he studied somewhere else. A few times a week he would be standing and waiting in front of my door, asking the neighbors for my spare keys, because he was my boyfriend and he locked himself out. Fortunately they didn't believe him. He left letters, roses, coffee, and one day a knife. A lot of times when he was waiting in front of my door, I would be sitting in my apartment in silence, hoping that he didn't hear me and would leave soon. He was sometimes there until 3 AM. I of course blocked him from the beginning. Told him many times to leave. He said that he could hear our babies and I would rob us of our future together. I talked to the police. They couldn't do anything because he didn't broke a law. One day he called from a different number. My friend picked up and just screamed at him to leave me alone. And then he did. He wasn't in front of my door anymore, not on campus, not in the supermarket. Just gone. But still today I get panic attacks if I see a man with his body time and brown curly hair in the corner of my eye. He wasn't subtle about it. He threatened me by phone and email, followed a moving truck to my new apartment, ignored police instructions to stop contacting me multiple times, then contacted me through other people, showed up in random places in my new city. It only stopped after he got arrested for assault on someone else, and ultimately moved to a different city, where he was again arrested for assault. That last part I only know because I was regularly looking him up on court records to see if he was free. Had this woman who would walk into the store I worked at just to talk to me. After a while I got creeped out and started doing inventory in back whenever someone spotted her walking in. I swear she looked more like Annie Wilkes than Kathy Bates did. Used to see her standing outside the library, waiting to get in. She would be cheerful but then utter a string of F-bombs or MF-bombs if she felt slighted in any way, still with that cheerful yet dead-eyed look on her face. I don't know if it's considered stalking, but this girl I was dating in high school's mom hired a private investigator to follow me around. When I went to meet her parents, her mom showed me pictures of me smoking cigars, buying beer, dipping, and even one of me working on my car. I ended up breaking up with her a few months later, but I still never understood why a grown-ass adult would hire a PI to follow around a 16-year-old. I knew because he used to be my friend and would attempt to call, text, or message me non-stop after I stopped being friends with him. He also claimed he had people who would keep an eye on me. I had to get a new phone number, block every fake account he created to get past other blocks, and keep people who knew me in the loop about him. Finally, after threatening to kill me when everything came to a head, after I got sick of his weird obsessive behavior followed by homophobic rants when I called him out on it, he managed to call me from another unknown number and threatened to kill himself if I didn't give him a chance. Yes, romantically, despite him claiming to be straight. I blocked him again and I have no idea if he did what he claimed he would do or not. I don't want to know either. There was this weird dude that used to call my house when I was 16. One day when my sister, 13, she answered the landline and heard a man start asking her questions about who she was, name and age, etc. My sister thought it was one of her friends messing around and didn't think much of it. Later that day my mum answered the phone to the same dude asking for the girl. He proceeded to call about 50 times a day from 3 different London landlines. He never spoke to my sister after the first time but always asked for her. He was vulgar and threatening when my dad spoke to him. In the end we had to pay to have all 3 of the numbers blocked for 6 months or so. The police didn't care. If I recall, it's because he was calling from hundreds of miles away. Even though I never spoke to him, it was just so unsettling hearing the phone ring so often. I think we unplugged it a lot of the time before getting him blocked. We have no idea who he was or why he harassed us like that. I imagine maybe he just spent all day calling numbers until people answered. Had a stalker when I was about 16-17 years old. They somehow got a hold of my number and would text me at all hours of the day. Sometimes just to let me know they knew when I had people over or tell me that I'm coming home awfully late. They would also tell me of all the other times they saw me throughout the day. I would block the number and they would just keep using new numbers to text me on. I ended up filing a police report but never got anything out of it. Cops even had the nerve to joke around and say, "It's because you're pretty. You should be flattered." Found out it was a childhood friend's father, posted him publicly on social media with photos. That put things to an end. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.